Here I have a basic HTML document with 3 headings from 1 to 3, an anchor, another heading is one of these elements in 2 sections inside a main divider. You can select elements with CSS by their type, so we can select, for example, H1, open and close curly braces, and say I'm going to add a font size of 70 pixels, so they look big. And as you can see, all the H1s look very big. This H1 and this H1. This is a type selector. We even have a body selector for the whole body, so we can add a background color of light blue, for example, so it adds to the background. We have this is to select the whole document, and we can add, for example, some border 10 pixels solid red, for example, and it adds a border of text pixels to everything it's being applied, okay? But we can also use what is called classes. So imagine we can add to this H1 a class name big, okay? And also we can add it to this H3 right here, okay? Now, when I go here, if I select that class with a dot, we can select the class and we name it big, the same as with our HTML. I can make a font size of 70 pixels, okay? I'm going to comment this one moment because I don't need it. So you see this part, okay? It will be important later on, okay? So I can add a class of font size 70 pixels, which is being applied to the heading 1 and heading 3. In this case, it's not being applied to the other H1 because it's only being applied to those elements that have the class big. We can even apply it to sections or paragraphs or anywhere, okay? And we have another selector, which is an ID. Imagine this H1 right here also has, or even the anchor has the class big, okay? So it now looks big. But imagine this H1 has not a class, but an ID of small, okay? And now you create a selector called small, and you add a font size of 14 pixels. Now, as you can see, this H1, even though it has the class big, as it has the ID small, it's being applied a small size. And maybe you are thinking, okay, that is because it's underneath big, as CSS stands for cascading style sheet, and that cascading is because it goes from the top to the bottom. That's the reason why it's being applied the small font size. But if we move this small to the top, it's still being applied. Why? Because as you have here, we have a selector specificity. I don't know how to say it, sorry. But we have three places. We have first place, second place, and third place. The first place is for ID selectors. ID are always unique. You can't have 2 elements with the same ID. It's not a good practice, and it can break your site, mostly when you use JavaScript. Okay, so IDs are meant to be used on only one element. Classes are utility classes used for multiple elements. For example, we can use a big class, which can be applied to anchors, headings, even paragraphs. I can add a paragraph with some text, add the class big, and now the some text is very big. But if I add the ID big, it won't work, okay? It's regular text. Or if I add the class small, it's also not working, okay? You can see here the text, because classes use a dot at the beginning and IDs a dash at the beginning. As you can see, IDs are the most important ones. Then we have classes, which are at the second place. Then we have selectors, type selector, which are the last part, okay? You can see here the reference, okay? So selector selects a type, in this case a body, heading, paragraph, whatever. A class, you have to add to every element the class you want to add, and the ID, you have to add to that element the ID. And then we have this right here, that's why I wanted to show you, which is applied to every single element. Okay, so it's been applied to the heading, it's been applied to this one right here, but this has an specificity of 0. So anything will remove this. Okay, so if I select, for example, all the headings, H1, for example, okay, and open and close curly braces and add border 0, all the headings now are removed. We are seeing more borders because of the elements here, but some other elements. For example, the heading is not, is the content around the heading which is showing the border. But check, for example, this anchor. Okay, if I change it to 0, the anchor now doesn't have a border. Okay, you can see it very clearly here. Okay, the anchor, if I remove this, it has a border, but if I add anchor here, border 0, it's been removed. Okay, so this is a specificity. This is very, very important. Now you can combine them. You can, for example, say, okay, I want an anchor with a class big, and there are many ways to combine this. Okay, so if the anchor contains the class big, is going to be a color red. Okay, and as you can see, the class big is being applied to this heading right here, and this anchor and this other heading, H3, H1, and anchor. But the color red is only being applied to this anchor right here, because now we have a specificity of 1 in the class and a specificity of 1 in the element, because we are defining both, and we can even add an ID. So there are plenty of options to combine and to select the elements you want to use, but we will be learning this throughout the course. Now you know that you can select elements, like the type elements, A1, H1, you can even add multiple of them. So I can add H1, comma, H2, comma, H3, comma, H4, and all of them are going to be font weight of bold, okay? And now all of them should, bold, instead of bold, I'm going to use light, so you can see it. Or maybe the font we are using doesn't have those variations, but we can use, for example, text decoration, underline, okay? And now you will see all of them have an underline, the headings, okay? This has underline, this has underline, okay? The anchor has, because it has it by default, but we can text decoration, none, okay? None, like this, and the anchor now doesn't have, okay? Only the headings. Or maybe we can add a color of green, for example, okay? So all the headings have it. Or maybe I can even add here the anchor, and now the anchor has the color green. And as this is underneath this one right here, is being applied, because here we are adding an underline to the anchor as well, okay? So if you see here, the anchor is being applied an underline, but here we are removing it. And as both have the same specificity, it has a specificity of 1, and here it has a specificity of 1. This is underneath, so this is being applied, it has more priority. If I add it at the top, the anchor does have underline, okay? So the best way to learn this is to try it yourself, try different combinations, try to select different elements, to style them, to make them look good. Even you can try to get some website you like, and try to recreate it with the knowledge you have right now, which is very limited, it's none, but throughout this module you will learn all the basic CSS you need to create any website you want.